hosting the event today, and for everyone joining us here. As we said, my name is Richard Lee. I'm the CEO here at Delphax Solutions. I have over 20 years experience in digital printing systems, field support, development, manufacturing for both toner and inkjet devices. Delphax Solutions, we develop and manufacture high-speed, high-productivity inkjet solutions. With that said, we have experience in the development of cut sheet and roll-fed toner and inkjet devices, as well as pre-press, workflow, pre-production, color management, etc. So we really do see the migration of the industry from those toner platforms into more of an inkjet-focused environment. But that said, there's still a significant volume of toner-based production that's out there. But we believe, as a significant number of other OEMs do, that this is migrating, and everyone has solutions out there today that are beginning to address that market. The monochrome landscape as it stands today really boils down into two primary areas. There's the pure play monochrome, where it is just monochrome print, and then you have kind of the offset plus monochrome for either transactional, mailing, infill, etc. That's still something that's produced in quite a volume today, to the point where per our info trends from a couple of years ago, we're looking at around 360 billion letter and A4 impressions per year just in the US or North America and Western Europe, which is quite a significant volume. Roughly that works out to be around 17% transactional, about 8% utility, 28% publishing and promotional, and then about 18% general office. So even though the world is moving towards more color output, there's still a significant volume of monochrome print out there. A key point here is that's 360 billion just on cut sheet devices. So this doesn't include roll-fed. DSI is predominantly focused on cut sheet devices at this time, so that's really where our focus lies. But that 360 billion accounts for about 60% of all cut sheet production volume in the world, or in those areas today. What we're going to be reviewing as we go through here, just to kind of paint the picture, is really building up that value chain. Where does inkjet work in terms of production for monochrome print, whether that be pure play monochrome or into kind of the infill personalization side of things. So we'll be covering things like productivity, the actual production processes themselves, some environmental considerations that come into play, technical considerations, not just from a support standpoint, but what's changed on the technology side as it relates to inkjet that makes it a better solution than toner, as well as some considerations around logistical elements, as well as workflow and capability offerings. All of these things combined really do prove out that the inkjet is really the direction to go with everything, even for those that haven't already made that jump. So there's only so many hours in a day, whether you're an 8x5 shift or if you're running 3 shifts on a 5-day basis. Productivity counts, but that really comes down into 2 specific areas. There's your production capacity, how much can you work in a given amount of time, and then burst capacity. And we see this from our customers. 1 second, we have a chat here. Oh, I guess that was to everybody, not just me. I see a chat there. So we see requests from our customer base, not just for production capacity, but also taking into account burst capacity. There could be seasonal peaks, rush orders, anything of that nature where their devices of old were not able to handle those peak production environments, and that's one of the really the key areas where inkjet has advantages. The turnaround time is becoming a very, very key factor. Whether it's in your personal life or professional life, people are expecting the kind of Amazon delivery model. I place my order now, and I want that delivered to me within 1 or 2 days. And we see that hitting print. So having devices capable of producing those volumes in burst or production capacity modes is key for people basically maintaining those relationships with those customers. And staffing requirements. Really, printing has become a commodity cutthroat business, certainly in the areas that we operate in. And businesses need to find cost savings wherever they can. This could be reducing the number of pieces of equipment in their shop to reduce their servicing expenses or even their footprint. It could be freeing up staff to work in multiple areas, or even the potential for reduction in staff and headcount, so that everything can be leveraged to get that last fraction of a cent out of every production piece. And having high productivity solutions is key to that approach. It was always said that Drooper 2012 was the inkjet Drooper. I think to a degree that was true, and we've certainly seen on the successive Droopers that inkjet has become a more staple element in that and probably key focus, certainly on the last and the future Droopers. But it's really only in the last few years that inkjet's proven itself to be capable, and at the point where people are willing to accept the characteristics of inkjet print compared to toner, and are now beginning to see those productivity improvements that come about as a result of the technology. So this is key. As far as production steps go, if we're looking at pure play monochrome output, there are options there, whether that be offset or laser based. But where there's color applications involved, you're really looking at the potential for either going fully digital or maybe offset shells. Where offset shells are considered, there's always overages. It doesn't matter which production workflow you're using, how your shop is organized. There are certainly overages that are going to be required from those offset shells. And moving to an inkjet-based platform helps remove those. It just adds waste into the process, as well as any storage costs that may be associated with keeping those overages, or even keeping volumes of inventory for repeat applications that your customers may have. With workflow considerations, if you're running an offset plus an infill environment with monochrome, there's a need there potentially due to regulatory changes or for changes in design to have elements changed. And if that element is produced on a base stock on an offset device and then personalized with toner, and there are changes to the base stock, there's significant impacts that happen there on the workflow, both in terms of time and in terms of wastage, which is to be considered. And then there's the multi-site side of things. If you don't have offset capabilities within your print shop and you're subcontracting that out, or if you're a multi-site production facility, there are things to be considered with moving those materials around your shop, all of which can be solved by moving to inkjet-based devices. Some of the environmental considerations, the shell overages we've already kind of discussed to some degree, and typically we see a 2 to 5% overage on shells that aren't required when you move to those inkjet-based systems or any digital production. You have production wastage because of make-readies at the offset presses. Although wastage for toner and inkjet seems to be pretty similar from what we've seen. Power usage, the newer inks that are available now have much better drying characteristics. So dryers are not always required. if you have a single production system and you're producing things at a single facility, then your power usage requirements for those given pieces are significantly reduced. And all this goes into the environmental impact of producing pieces. Transportation, again, if you've got off-site or multi-site shipping, then you're looking at logistics costs and carbon footprint that are associated in that environment. And this really does have a larger impact today because people are becoming incredibly conscious of the environmental footprint that their print production facilities are going through, whether that's toner-based requiring significant fusing capabilities or multi-stage processes such as offset combined with some form of personalization. But what we've seen is that when people move to InkJet, there's a 5 to 10% reduction in their total carbon footprint and paper costs by moving to InkJet through savings on wastage and associated items. As far as the technical aspects go, the biggest thing with InkJet systems, certainly compared to their toner equivalents, it's the simpler design. There are less touch points on the electronic data elements. There are less mechanical processes involved, and this goes towards making the system just far more reliable. With systems that we have, we're looking at 90% plus availability, which is typically not there with toner-based devices, even the monochrome devices that are out there. Because there's no contact with the actual media on InkJet solutions, there are certain advantages, certainly with things like self-seal mailers, where you don't have to worry about OPC belts. So if you're doing a self-seal mailer that's been produced by somebody, for example, like Relico, and then you're passing those through a monochrome toner system, the glues that are contained within those pieces actually destroy the OPC belts. And because of the non-contact nature of InkJet, that's no longer a concern, which reduces your running costs, which is quite significant. Because InkJet is a non-contact marking technology, you also have minimum effects from environmental changes, be that temperature or humidity, which is key because that means that you have far more consistency from print to print, day to day. So while that may not be a huge consideration from the monochrome side, when you're looking to replace an offset plus infill system with a pure play InkJet, you need that consistency and that reliability. And that is available with InkJet now. And part of that is just down to the way the technology works. You also have plays there on maintenance. Because there are less pieces, the systems are far less complex, which now allows for self-support models, which typically haven't been available. So instead of supporting, if you have your own an offset press environment plus a digital toner device, you can move to a single pass system that really does reduce your support footprint to the point where with field replaceable units, training for the staff that are in-house, you can remove a lot of those support elements and the support costs that were there for the traditional production methods, which has an impact on your bottom line. A key element by moving to production systems where there's single pass and everything's in one place is that it allows you for print system consolidation. If you are assuming the business from one of your competitors, or if you're reducing the footprint of your equipment that's on site, you can deprecate those legacy systems, consolidate the work down to a newer platform, and with various products, you can use those to convert different data streams and have those work on a single device, which increases your production efficiency, reduces the support costs, opens up your offerings to your end users so that you can take work from other people. But the key part of that is that there are no changes to your customer workflow required. So even if they're used to providing you the data in a given format, that continues until you have that opportunity to develop a relationship with your customer. So even if it's a data stream conversion or document re-engineering, whatever that may be, it's a seamless integration from the customer standpoint. And that's key to getting them to migrate from old production technologies into new production technologies. For them, it needs to be seamless, even though you're seeing benefits. There's even options in document re-engineering for content-aware changing of the structure of the document, which allows you, if you're doing advertising, for example, to target things specifically to customers to increase your value proposition to the end user. And of course, there's multi-channel support. You can add in other elements there, not just print related. I'll make no secret of the fact that obviously Crawford support these technologies, and we look forward to implementing more of those with them. So the business case on InkJet, it does apply to monochrome, pure play, or offset preprint shells plus infill, but InkJet is not a panacea technology. There are some limitations to what InkJet can achieve, and offset really is still going to be part of your production workflow if you have certain volumes or certain specific requirements, and to some degree even the toner-based devices may still be there. It's about right sizing and putting everything in place, but InkJet solves a lot of the problems in one package that would ordinarily take multiple processes to solve. The biggest element will be volume. You may find that you need a hybrid solution, but securing an InkJet system for one task could allow you to do others, and you'll see that in some data that follows. What we have here, and I've had to remove the numbers just to protect our customers, so this becomes a relative scale, are the production costs for a certain number of duplex sheets produced on various technologies. So if we take a look at the red and the green lines there, you can see that up until around the 40,000 sheet mark, it's actually cheaper to produce a complete piece with color and infill on a single pass inkjet device. Once you go beyond that point, then you have the choice of either moving to a offset plus toner or an offset plus inkjet solution. And on that monochrome infill, there really isn't a lot of difference in the pricing there, as you can see. But the toner systems, that break-even point for toner, around up to about 1,000 impressions of the same thing. You may want to, if you've already got it, stick with toner if that's the device of choice, but you lose that flexibility and the cost savings. So if you have work that falls underneath that 40,000 impression point on a single quotes plate, then really inkjet is your solution. If you go above that and your plates are better produced on offset, then you can still use that same device for your long run work just to do the monochrome infill. So this really does provide you with a platform that can address the short run, but also provide you benefits for your long runs as well, with personalization and infill, even when utilizing the offset solutions. But toner clearly doesn't work in these environments. It loses that fairly quickly. The biggest advantage with the inkjet, we've covered this before, beyond the running costs, is the turnaround time and the production time. So what you see here is the amount of time in hours to produce a given number of pieces, and this assumes a 70% efficiency rate. So you can see there that if you're running inkjet only and you're running up to 100,000, the turnaround time may be there, but per the chart here, maybe the costs aren't where you'd like them to be, and you're looking for that savings. So maybe you do move to a hybridized model for offset plus an inkjet or a toner infill, but because of the drying time and offset, that turnaround time is significantly increased. So moving to the digital technologies really help you with the turnaround time, but as far as the cost profile goes, really InkJet is the way to go on that. And this is something that's really come back from two of our customers in terms of their feedback, is that they've drastically reduced their turnaround times. And this comes back to the Amazon thing I was mentioning earlier, where people are beginning to expect, hey, I put the order in today, I want it the next day or the day after. And if you don't have all those devices in-house, that's a very difficult turnaround time to actually achieve. So the previous was based upon a series of direct mail and financial services style applications. This was typically 15 to 20% total area coverage for the color elements, which could be printed, offset, or digital, and then between 2 and 5% for the personalization infill. So a fairly standard direct mail transactional application set there. And we see this replicated over a number of areas or a number of customers. The interesting thing here is that one of our customers actually replaced their digital toner devices. They made that jump to move away from the offset plus infill to go to exclusively digital, and initially went with toner-based devices. They're in that kind of 24 million impressions per year range. But when they moved to InkJet, they were saving themselves in the region of $350,000 to $400,000 per year by moving to a pure InkJet Play solution, just because of the productivity efficiencies, the difference in running costs, service costs, etc. So there's a clear business case for that migration, not just from Monochrome to InkJet, but from other digital production devices to pure play InkJet as well. As I kind of alluded to earlier, we're at the point now with InkJet where, although the running cost is slightly higher for the actual marking on the page, the production times are significantly less, to the point where the cost for production of monochrome inkjet compared to toner is similar, but the turnaround time is 40% less, just because of the throughput capabilities of inkjet-based systems. They just run faster than the toner devices do. So whether it's a pure play monochrome or a personalization infill on top of offset, InkJet really does provide time and cost benefits over traditional solutions, traditional toner-based solution profiles specifically. Consolidation, document re-engineering, and workflow processes are really going to be the key to businesses being successful. Certainly, as we find ourselves in these weird times with COVID, there's going to be a lot of consolidation in the industry, and people that embrace new technologies and they're able to get onto inkjet-based solutions to replace their toner devices and to re-engineer their workflows without impacting their customers are going to be those individuals that secure those contracts, that get those work items from the end user base, because they'll be providing not just the print value, but the delivery timelines and potentially other multi-channel options as well to their customers. So that migration is going to be key to the future. And InkJet doesn't stay still. I mean, it's a constantly evolving technology. I know there's some webinars that are coming up from a couple of organizations in terms of production inkjet, and things are changing, things are constantly evolving, to the point where a number of companies, including ourselves, are producing monochrome only inkjet devices in the region of 400 impressions per minute, 500 impressions per minute, as direct replacements to those monochrome toner devices. Again, 360 billion impressions per year. There's still a significant market out there for monochrome pieces, and having that ability on a new inkjet platform is going to help people succeed. So really, inkjet should be a key part of your future expansion and recovery programs, and working with people like ourselves, with Crawford, with the other OEMs that are out there producing these systems is really going to be key to people's ongoing success.
Thank you.
That was great, Richard. Thank you so much. I'll open it up. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and just chat them, type them into the chat window, and we'll ask Richard those questions. I do have a couple that have come in. So what market or markets do you see Delphax adding the most value through their technology?
On the current technology basis that we offer, direct mail transactional book publications. I kind of mentioned earlier that InkJet isn't a panacea technology. It doesn't solve all of the issues that are out there. So things like high quality, what we call coffee table books, that's going to require an evolution on our part and potentially on technology providers' parts to provide what I would call true offset replacement. With the production runs going down, the price point for InkJet is correct, but the quality isn't always there. And I think that's an important part to be cognizant of, is that I think into the future, as newer InkJet technologies come to the table, it will start to pick off those top level, top tier applications. But for now, there are certain things that really should be done on maybe some of the higher end toner devices or offset. But for us, direct mail transactional and book publishing.
Okay. All right. We have another one. So my company requires document verification on the printer for sensitive print output. Does Delphax Solutions offer verification solutions such as cameras?
We do. So we do have verification systems that we manufacture, and we also have partners who do document verification as well. So if you have a preferred vendor, there are two that we deal with today. So we integrate. So we're a full services engineering company as well. So we can integrate those solutions into our workflows.
Excellent. Okay. What is the typical installation and break-in time for one of the solutions?
So on our Elan 500 HD press, which is a CMYK sheet fed device, we ship that from the factory here into North America on a cradle. So the system is placed on a cradle, that's loaded onto the transport truck. It arrives at the facility, and we have first sheet out on day one.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Excellent.
To be honest with you, it's usually a larger hassle finding an IT technician to give you an IP address for your system and to integrate that side of it. But no, first print is out on day one. And the real key to that is that we can actually ship the system on that cradle. So the system is intact. So really it's just a case of leveling, balancing, and commissioning.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. For supply chain purposes, where are the Delphax units produced?
Here in Toronto, so in Canada.
Okay.
So they're North American designed and manufactured.
Excellent. A couple more questions. Are print samples available, and can you run my samples?
Yes and yes. You should see my email address there. By all means, reach out. So for anyone that is interested, just to kind of make the ROI on any potential purchase easier to get to. One of the things that we've done in order to support the printing industry through COVID-19, or the recovery for COVID-19, is that our Elan 500 press is available without CapEx costs to anyone that qualifies with over 12 million impressions per year. So there are no lease costs, no purchase costs. We're in a unique position, and we believe that the industry is going to need help in recovering. So they can actually get one of our flagship products for no CapEx cost. So by all means, reach out. If you've got samples you'd like run, please speak to me. We're here to help.
Excellent. That's great to hear. It's nice to have a company that's doing that too, considering the current times.
Well, I mean, it eliminates, depending on the project, anywhere from $600,000 to $750,000 from the acquisition cost for a device. So it's quite substantial.
There you go. Excellent. Do you have a TCO or total cost of ownership model for each individual client, or can you do that?
We can do that. We'll work. So we have an overriding TCO model, like a master, but it's really discussions with customers directly to understand their business model. We use that as a base, and then put other considerations into there as well, depending on what their production environment is. And the numbers that I showed you earlier were a hybridized version of 2 or 3 models that were there. So we can work with people to give them that TCO return so they can see where that's at.
Okay. All right. Well, that I don't see any other questions coming through. We are a little bit early, Richard. I don't know if you have anything else that you'd like to share or discuss. Anything